So I want to welcome everyone to this webinar today. We're going to talk about sprint reviews or any, even if you're not in Scrum, all of the agile methods have have the intention of iterating, developing slices of complete software that are demonstrable at the end of something. Even in Kanban, I think it's a good practice to be demoing periodically to frequently. And so this applies to Scrum sprint reviews, or from my point of view, to any review or demo that you would make to your clients, showing them a slice of functionality that's working code. The emphasis here is on attracting, engaging, and enlightening your customers, and I mean that. We want to. I think the sprint review is less a by rote demo showing everything that the team has done. And it's much more of an opportunity to engage the organization and to engage stakeholders. And I was specific in saying the organization. It's engaging folks around the teams, but it really is an organizational transformation play. And I hope you get some of that as we go through some of that potential as we go through this workshop or the presentation. I want to start talking about eye contact. A few years ago, I left in 2012, so this isn't that old news. This is old news, but not too old. But from 2009 to 2012, approximately, I worked at a company called Eye Contact, and I want to talk about the end state of sprint reviews, and then we can back into how we got there. So the entire company would engage in our sprint and release reviews. C-level folks would engage. The leadership team regularly came to it. They were excited to come. We had a room that could handle about 60 folks, and literally it was full. It was overflowing. We had people sitting under tables. I was the director of engineering, so of the entire technology organization, and I had to continuously get there earlier to get a seat. So you had to get there early to lock in your seat, otherwise you were sitting on the floor or you couldn't attend. So there was heavy interest, is the point. We started to record them on video for folks who couldn't attend or who couldn't get in the room. We hung TVs outside in the hallways to give and had video going on inside so that people could see, so we had overflow. There was engagement. So the folks weren't falling asleep. They were engaged. They were excited. There was a hubbub. There was an energy in the room. There were questions. There was feedback and understanding going on. One of the things we noticed at the end is it reduced the need for serial handling of customer support training. So historically, we did quarterly releases, and we would have about a week before a release, or we would have a milestone towards the end of our release train where we would train customer support. And what we noticed is they were getting training information from the demos, from the sprint reviews, and at some point, they just stopped needing training, and they started understanding exactly how the application was evolving towards release. And we really didn't need to do that hand-holding. And that was, to me, that was a powerful side effect of having regular sprint reviews that were really entertaining them, engaging them, and explaining what was the evolutionary path that they were going to inherit at the end of a quarter. After the meeting, and things didn't stop after the meeting. There were demos. It was not uncommon for an executive or for a product owner or, our chief product owner to go back to a team area and ask for a demo or ask, to see specific things in more detail. So there was a buzz after it for a while. And it wasn't a buzz around, going to lunch or around social, discussion or rumors. It was around the product. It was all about the product and done software and excitement around where we were going. So this is the end state. So let's back up from that a little bit. We didn't get here overnight. A little bit more about eye contact. The context, it is. It's an email marketing, it is an email marketing software as a service company serving small to medium-sized business customers. At the time, roughly, there were 70,000 active paying customers, 100,000 plus active customers. So we had a freemium offering. So there were a lot of folks on free. About 275 employees and about 100 in technology, approximately 10 Scrum teams. That floated. We had some near shore. It might go to 12, 13, something like that. So a moderately sized company. Development and operations teams were using Scrum/Kanban. So the entire technology organization, not just development, was using that. The firm had been applying Scrum since 2008. Scrum of Scrums is just a term. We were using that for coordination. There was a dedicated PO team, and there was the notion of a chief product owner or a director of product management who was driving and guiding the POs. But it wasn't always so exciting. I remember and this isn't me up in the upper right-hand corner, but I suspect I was sad. So when I joined in 2009, I attended my first sprint review. I think it was in my first week. It was in the first few days I was there. I was lucky enough in timing that at the end of that week there was sprint reviews. This was across all teams, so I attended a room, and they had scheduled a couple hours where every team would come in and do their sprint demo or their sprint review. So the first one, it was weekly attended, PowerPoints per team. And believe it or not, there was no working software. So I saw one team, and they were doing PowerPoints and little joke slides and graphics that slid around the screen, but there was not one line of working code. And I remember being incredible. I'm like, no, this can't be right. So, okay, maybe the team maybe they had a tough sprint and they needed a break. So the next sprint review was PowerPoints and hand waving and, and talking. And the next sprint review was the same thing. And the next sprint review was the same thing. And photos and jokes. And it was ill-conceived and it was poorly prepared. And I remember to this day, I remember everyone politely clapping and laughing at the appropriate moments. So the audience was sort of engaged, but it was a facade. It wasn't real engagement. It was sort of this polite. We are in the South. North Carolina's in the South, so I think it's attributed to maybe the South. There's a lot of polite people here. But I had this overwhelming, as the leader, as the technology leader, and as the head coach, if you will, I had this overwhelming feeling of what just happened. That's not what's supposed to happen. We were supposed to see code. We were supposed to be looking at visual code. The teams, it's all about working code and vertical slices and end-to-end demonstrability. And I was scratching my head. I'm like, I thought these guys knew what Scrum was about. I thought they knew how to do this stuff. This isn't right. This isn't what we're supposed to be showing at the end of a sprint. And I was really concerned about the level of engagement or the lack thereof on the part of the organization. That, as a leader, that was incredibly disappointing and concerning to me. So I started thinking about what do we do? This was bad, and I like this Dilbert because this is the essence of what we're doing. The technology demo, the software isn't 100% complete, and if I had a user interface, you would see something here and sometimes here, and then you'd be saying, I got to get me some of that, and are there any questions? So the blank screen. So there was no demo. But there was this expectation of, you really want to get some of this. This is exciting, and it wasn't. So it didn't resonate. There was a disconnect, and so I started thinking about, okay, how do we get this right? How do we right the ship? And even part of writing the ship was getting people to recognize that this wasn't the intent of a review. So we had to sort of retrain or realign Scrum Masters and product owners and the teams and just explain the basics. It's all, you sort of get back to basics. And these are areas that we got back to then always remember that end state that I talked about earlier of excitement, of people getting jazzed up, of our entire C-level team being in the room, leaning forward in their seats. So we had to get there, and we certainly weren't here at this point. So the things we're going to talk about are ownership formats. You can see the agenda here. We'll talk about release goals. So we'll go through these individual points next and talk about what I think of as just basic, the basic sequence of putting together, compelling sprint reviews or demos. The first thing we did, let me pause for a second.